Most people think discipline is punishment. They associate it with restriction, pressure, and, well, forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. It feels harsh. It feels uncomfortable. And because of that, many people avoid it. They choose comfort instead. They choose ease. They choose whatever feels good in the moment. But here's the truth most people don't realize until much later in life. Discipline isn't punishment. It's self-respect in action. It's one of the purest forms of self-love you can practice. Because every time you choose discipline, you're choosing your future over your impulses. Think about it in a real, practical way. When you wake up early instead of hitting snooze repeatedly, that's discipline. When you go to the gym instead of staying comfortable on the couch, that's discipline. When you control your anger instead of reacting, that's discipline. And in every one of those moments, what you're really saying is this: I care enough about myself not to stay where I am. That's not punishment. That's love. The problem is, most people confuse self-love with comfort. They think loving yourself means always being kind to yourself, always taking it easy, always avoiding stress. But real self-love isn't soft all the time. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it requires you to do things you don't feel like doing. Because if you only ever do what feels good, you end up creating a life that doesn't feel good at all. Let's break that down. If you avoid discipline in your health, you might enjoy comfort now, but you pay for it later with low-energy illness and regret. If you avoid discipline in your finances, you might enjoy spending now, but you deal with stress and instability later. If you avoid discipline in your emotions, you might feel justified in reacting, but you damage relationships and lose respect over time. Undisciplined comfort creates long-term pain. Disciplined discomfort creates long-term peace. That's the trade most people don't want to face. Discipline is choosing the harder path in the moment so your future becomes easier. And when you look at it that way, it becomes clear. Every act of discipline is an investment in yourself. It's you saying, I deserve better than this version of me. Now, let's talk about something deeper. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. And, this is something people overlook completely. When you constantly break promises to yourself, whether it's skipping workouts, delaying goals, or giving in to distractions, you start to lose confidence, not because you're incapable, but because you don't trust yourself to follow through. But when you practice discipline, even in small ways, that changes. If you say you're going to wake up at a certain time and you do it, you build trust. If you say you're going to finish something and you actually complete it, you build trust. Over time, that trust turns into confidence. And that confidence changes how you carry yourself, how you think, and how you make decisions. That's another reason discipline is self-love. It strengthens your relationship with yourself. Now, let's make this practical. Start with something simple. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Pick one area where you know you've been avoiding discipline. Maybe it's your routine. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's how you manage your time. Then set a small, clear standard. For example, instead of saying, I'll start working out, say, I will train for 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Keep it realistic. The goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is consistency. And here's the key part. Do it whether you feel like it or not. That's where discipline is built. Not when you're motivated, not when you're inspired, but when you don't feel like doing it and you still show up. Because feelings are temporary. Discipline is stable. Another powerful way to apply this is in your emotional life. The next time you feel triggered, angry, frustrated, or defensive, pause. Don't react immediately. That pause is discipline. Choosing not to say the first thing that comes to mind is discipline. Walking away instead of escalating is discipline. And again, that's self-love, because you're protecting your peace, your relationships, and your long-term reputation. It's also important to understand that discipline doesn't mean being perfect. You will slip. You will have days where you fall back into old habits. That's normal. What matters is that you return to your standard. You don't stay down. You don't give up on yourself. Because self-love isn't about never failing. It's about not abandoning yourself when you do. Over time, discipline changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. You become more reliable, more focused, and more grounded. And people notice that. But more importantly, you notice it. You start to feel different, more in control, less reactive, more confident in your decisions. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. That's the real reward of discipline. So, the next time you feel resistance, the next time you don't feel like doing what you know you should do, don't look at it as punishment. Look at it as an opportunity to show your self-respect. Because every disciplined action is a message you send to yourself. And the message is simple. I'm worth the effort. If this gave you something real to think about, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs it. And if you want more content like this, straight, practical and grounded, make sure you subscribe.